Chapter 192. Part 2 of 5. Reason reached up and poked me. This time, I appeared in a train car. With the pass I got from the princess, we were all given a much larger and nicer car. My past self was sitting at the table in a corner, writing with one hand and petting Tile with the other. Twilight and her pals were lounged around the rest of the car, though half of them didn't have much color. Pinky, Rarity, and Applejack were all sitting in the corner opposite me. They were the only three with color, so I walked over to them. When I got closer, I saw that Pinky was staring straight past me. "Nav is different," she finally said. "How can you even tell?" Applejack asked. "He's practically expressionless." "What do you mean, Pinky?" Rarity asked, turning to look over at me. "Do you think the changelings did something to him? I watch Nav a lot. This isn't how he writes." "Why do you watch Nav?" Applejack slowly asked. "I watch every pony, silly," Pinky said. "It helps me learn how to make them smile. I watch Nav extra because making him smile is super duper tough." "Well, that's discomforting," Rarity said. "I gave up questioning you a long time ago," Applejack said with a sigh. "So what's different about his writing?" "The only times he's paused since starting are when we hit bumps." "Isn't that a good thing?" Rarity asked. "It means he's finally found his inspiration." "Nav doesn't write books," Pinky said. "He remembers them. And it's usually imperfectly, to the point where some of them don't even make sense. There's no way he could write this much this quickly without even taking a moment to pause." "And what kind of change do you think this might be?" Rarity slowly asked. "I suspect some kind of weird brain leech snuck into his head while he was defending the changelings from monsters." Applejack and Rarity shared a very interesting look. I couldn't tell if they were disturbed or just looking for an easy way out of dealing with Pinky's crazy ass. They finally looked back at Pinky and Applejack decided to go first. "That theory's a little, I dunno, out there. Don't you think it's much more likely that he's writing something else?" Rarity asked. "I'm sure there are some things he writes that don't require constant thought." "Nope, that's the journal he uses for books. He likes them because they have the lock he thinks is complicated enough to keep any pony out. That's how I also know his writing style literally changed overnight." "Say what now?" Applejack asked. "When I first read them when he got back from the hive, I was shocked to find that, midway through one story, he started over from the beginning with a completely different handwriting, writing the story in an entirely different way. It flows so much better, like it's the original. I've never seen him do that before." "I think she wanted you to elucidate on something else," Rarity said. "Specifically, the part about breaking into his journal." "What about it?" Pinky innocently asked. "That doesn't seem wrong to you?" Applejack asked. Pinky's head tilted. "Why would it? Reading diaries is the best way to figure out what makes some pony smile. That's how I learned all about Dash's favorite fantasies and now we're closer than ever." "You know what, I ain't got a vocabulary good enough to describe that," Applejack said. "Rarity. I'm going to go with utterly horrifying, morally bankrupt, and extremely inappropriate," Rarity said with a nod. "What she said," Applejack replied with a nod of her own. "You shouldn't violate any pony's privacy, especially Nav's. That's all the poor colt has left. Besides, I have a feeling he has a lot of secrets no pony would want to discover." "But what about his brain leech? Why would your mind go there, of all places?" Rarity asked. "Of any possibility, what makes you think brain leech?" "I got the weirdest, most obscure tail twitch ever that warned me." "I thought you couldn't tell what those meant," Applejack slowly said. "I'm learning to interpret them. I'm about 93% sure I'm completely right. We gotta work together to save him before it's too late." "And I'm about 100% sure you need to leave him alone," Applejack said. "I don't think I've ever seen Nav really get mad," but I'm pretty sure accusing him of having a brain leech would do it. I sure as sure don't want to see what he'd do. And some weird tail twitch ain't gonna be enough to convince no pony. Nav's been through enough, Rarity said. Celestia only knows how much of it might have been caused, directly or indirectly, by some of us. Let's not put him through more by throwing around wild accusations without more evidence than a suspicion. So what will we do if his leech takes over and tries to spread? Pinky asked. With that new magic sword, Nav's DPS is too high. Applejack's a great tank and Twilight's a good sorcerer, but Fluttershy can't heal without her bag. Applejack looked over at Rarity. So how's the business been goin'? Rarity seemed happy to change the subject. Pinky growled and stalked off, moving to a place she could watch me without me seeing. When I turned to look over at me, I saw that Taya was watching Pinky with narrowed eyes. That's all I saw before the memory ended. Well, she actually was about 93% accurate, I said. My brain leech didn't sneak in, she was allowed in. But she did do it under false pretenses. That isn't quite accurate, Reason said. She told you that she wanted to free her sisters, which was true. She just lied about some of what she could do and didn't tell you about other things she could do. She also supposedly didn't know that she was a human creation. I can believe she didn't know that, I said. There's no reason to have held that back. But yet, she defs didn't tell me nearly as much as she should have. Do you consider helping her to be a mistake? Reason asked. No. Almost nobody deserves to be imprisoned forever. The fact that she lied to me out of the gate is disconcerting, but I've done the same thing to many people. I just haven't been in a position to have as much power over somebody as she did. Is there any way to confirm if she forced me to agree to take her? She didn't, Reason said. When she healed you, she read all your memories. That told her exactly what she needed to say to make you agree. She didn't have to force you into anything when simple manipulation worked just as well. Of course, silly me. I forgot the part where she utterly violated my privacy before even learning my name. Do you blame her? My guide asked. No. That doesn't mean I'm happy about it. Flo may not be human, but she was made by us. She has all our weaknesses and all our strengths, plus all the cool shit being made of nanites lets her do. That means she's imperfect. And with what I know now about water elementals as a whole, I completely understand why she would have no problem at all with reading my mind and manipulating me. My main concern is how long she continued manipulating me and if she's still doing so now. Of course she's manipulating you, Reason said. Everyone around you manipulates you. That's their purpose as friends and followers. From the start, Flo has been attempting to manipulate you into being what she considered a better person. What she considers a better person isn't always something I want to be. I am no longer going to be cowed and forced along a path. I welcome advice and criticism, but I'm not interested in being anyone's puppet ever again. The water elementals have always considered it their goal to guide the mortals, Reason said. The one who feels so attached to you might not be so eager to let you go your own way. Then she's free to go her own way. Do we get to talk about the actual memory we just saw, or are we only going to talk about the flow portion? Are you truly surprised by any of Pinky's antics? My guide asked. No, that's not what I want to talk about. Pinky told the element of honesty that she was breaking into my locked journals and that bitch didn't tell me a thing. Being the element of honesty doesn't mean she's required to tell all the secrets she knows, Reason said. Especially towards one to whom she felt little but pity and fear. Had you asked, I'm sure she would have been honest. But you didn't even know to ask, so she never had to betray her friend. Once again, you see why your reputation is important, my guide said. Your actions in Appaloosa earned you no favors with Applejack. All of your lies before then made her distrustful. She felt no need to tell you anything. I never did anything to hurt her or any of her family. I even helped her sister get her cutie mark. But you lied easily and often, Reason said. which, to the element of honesty, is a problem. What you should be more concerned about is the fact that Rarity never told you. She actually liked you. Apparently not enough, which isn't surprising in the least. It seems that once again, ponies are shown to be fairly terrible friends. You weren't always the best friend, yourself, Reason said. True. So the last memory involves Chrysalis. It does. Are you prepared? Yep. She reached up and I met her hoof with my fist. We appeared in Chrysalis's room. She was sitting at a vanity desk, staring into a mirror and slowly brushing her hair. Incompetence. Imbeciles. Completely and utterly worthless, almost all of them. How can I ever become a better queen with such useless subjects? I looked around the room to see if she might be talking to somebody, but she was alone. I walked over to the desk and looked into the mirror, but I only saw her reflection. Is she talking to herself? I asked. It would appear so, Reason replied. Well, Nav, she asked, looking back to her bed. Oh wait, that's right. You abandoned me, too. Just like all the rest. Words, words, words. They mean so little to mortals, don't they? She looked back into the mirror and continued brushing her hair. He promised to help me change. As if Celestia would ever allow that. I think she prefers the idea of me as a monster. There was a time I would agree with that, I said. Still. He helped me when no one else would. He saved me when no one else would. There is value in that. I can hardly expect the world from him, after all. Still, though. To change, the brush stopped moving and she silently stared into the mirror. No. There is no changing from what I have done. My path is set. I am not worth redemption. The brush started moving again and she began softly humming. This is some psycho shit, I said. It's going to fast forward, Reason said. One moment. We jumped to when Chrysalis was finally putting her brush down. Her eyes stared into the mirror for almost a minute before she smashed it with a hoof. How could I even think of changing? Even knowing what a monster that thing is, I still made another deal with it. Her horn lit up and all the glass shards flew at a wall so hard that some of it stuck. The rest shattered even more and flew around the room. What was I thinking? Surely the loss to Celestia warped my mind. Discord suddenly appeared right behind her and pressed his fucked up hands on her back. Calm down, Chrysalis, he said. I'm not that bad. The memory ended like that, leaving my mouth gaping. Gotta love that bombshell, Reason said. So Chrysalis made a deal with Discord. That changes a few things, I slowly said. That should change a lot of things, actually, my guide said. Until I know exactly what deal she made with him, it only changes a few. But if it was enough for him to just come barging in like that, it doesn't bode well. Why bother trying to help someone change when she obviously doesn't want to? Reason asked. What makes you think she wasn't just trying to get you closer? Perhaps Discord's plan was to have the two of you wed after you killed Celestia. Perhaps. We can see here that Chrysalis wasn't too happy with the deal she made. Maybe she rescinds it entirely later. I'm fairly certain you can't rescind a deal with that thing. Why do you always make excuses for those who do terrible things? Because there's always a reason they made the decision to do something terrible. I've done all kinds of fucked up shit, usually for good reasons. Sometimes there's an excuse. What would ever excuse making a deal with something that's so obviously evil? Being really desperate. I'd say ending up in Celestia's dungeon would do it. You place a lot of value on why a person does something rather than what a person does. Sometimes, intent is key. The fact that she made a deal with Discord is absolutely troubling and I am going to ask her about it. What happens after that will depend on her answer. And you would still help her change, even now. Again, that depends on her answer. I'm going to make sure to have Luna and Celestia around for that conversation. Wise. So are you prepared to move on, then? I guess so, unless you want to talk about the thing where Luna made everyone dream about fucking me. That was pretty traumatic. We don't have a memory for that, I'm afraid, Reason said. But I suppose we could talk about it. Luna abused her power quite heavily and caused a lot of issues for you. All because you slept with another woman. That power is so incredibly abusable, I said. And what she did to me was, honestly, I'd say it fits the definition of evil. And never really apologized for it, even to this day. Yet another thing to add to my list of reasons to yell at everyone. I guess that's all. I just wanted another excuse to call her evil. Then let's move on, my guide said. We appeared in her glade once again. Are you prepared for the rest of Luna's conversation? The guide asked. Sure. Just like that, it all flashed into my memory. Long story short, it was mostly her rambling on about how happy she was to be working with me and how great finally having a place to truly belong was. I assumed she was trying to guilt me into forgiving her for being a raging bitch muffin. It didn't really work that well. I think I'm good, I said with a nod. Excellent. Are you ready for the next? The next memory? No, the next message. This one is from Kot. How many do I have? I slowly ask. At the moment, just one complete message. Taya is currently in the process of talking to you, though. When she finishes, it will be 2. Well, at least neither of them will be as long. Kot's is 3 times as long. Taya's is already longer than Kot's. God damn it. What is wrong with these people? They care about you, my guide slowly replied. What's wrong with that? I figured they would have better things to do than sit around and talk to themselves. They're spending time with the person who is their entire world. They're worried about who you'll be when you get out and they're afraid that you made this decision way too quickly without asking anyone's advice. Thus, they're spending time with you. Weirdos. Let me have Kot's message, I guess. Having several hours of Kot's crazy ramblings crammed straight into my head was disorienting and it took me about a minute to completely digest it. She started off by saying that Luna told everybody and their mother that they could talk to me while I was in the coma, so I could expect a ton of visitors. I'm not sure how everybody expected to get through the maze, but I guess that wasn't my problem. She went on to explain how I was super awesome and the best lady ever and all that. This also included several more pledges of loyalty and her undying devotion. That portion ended with her lapsing into repeating how much she loved me over and over for about half an hour. The next bit detailed her plan to have a few kittens to train to worship and serve me. As soon as the pageant ended, her idea was to hunt down the nearest male cat and extract a child from him. Apparently, she didn't foresee any possible issues with this plan at all and was even going to personally gift her second kitten to Taya as a lifelong slave. Once she got finished gushing about how awesome it would be to finally be serving us properly, she moved on to recent events. Apparently it was now day 5. Zecora and the elementals discovered a cache of gene-locked chests. Jonathan was teaching the elementals how to break into them. Most of what they found were personal effects, but apparently they also picked up half a Genesis project. That meant we had all kinds of neat seeds, though I'm not sure if that mattered with what Jonathan was capable of. And after the recent events, she just started talking about her own life and making speculations about mine. It was kinda neat, I guess. Well then, I finally said. Does she really think I'll be okay with letting her make slave kittens? Apparently. Either that or she just doesn't care what objections you might have. Both seem equally likely. Is Taya finished yet? I sighed. No. Are you ready for the next memory? Yep. And off we went. End of part 2.